Mr. Snow, that meeting is yours.
Thank you very much, Seth. Good evening. Thanks. Okay, good evening. This is the Scituate Conservation Commission on May 2nd.
Me too.
May 2. So let's see, this meeting is being held remotely as an alternate means of public access pursuant to the Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You're hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Scituate in accordance with the open meeting law. And then just as the town of Scituate, Mass commitment statement to diversity, equality, and inclusion. The Scituate Conservation Commission is committed to providing an environment of respect during meetings. We ask all members to interact in a polite manner, even when there is disagreement. We value the participation of our community, and we want all participants, including marginalized and monitorized communities, to feel welcome and respected. We ask our committee members and all who participate to commit to these standards and support the respect of our community. Oh, how well I read that. I should have left that for Jen. I haven't had to open a meeting in a few meetings.
I know. Here for you.
I'm trying. So, do we have any additions or amendments to the agenda?
None, Frank.
Okay. So I might as well go right into 7 Dunbar Lane.
Well, we have to make a motion to
Oh,
accept.
yeah, we should do that.
I make a motion to accept the agenda as written.
And a second from somebody?
Second from Jen.
Jen Foley, all in favor? Richard,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
and Brendan?
Yes.
Frank, yes. Okay, we everybody here tonight. Okay. So 7 Dunbar Lane, this was continued from 3/21. And do we have someone from Morse Engineering?
I see Greg Morse on the call, so I'm gonna highlight Greg, and I'm also gonna turn Art Allen on too.
Great.
Good evening, this is Greg.
Hey,
Hi,
Greg.
Greg.
Hi.
So there's been a fair amount of back and forth there. Do you want to kind of give us your?
Sure. Yep, for the record, Gregory Morse, I'm representing the property owner, Greg Kelleher, 7 Dunbar Lane. This was filed as a notice of intent for an addition in a proposed barn at Mr. Kelleher's property. We had opened up the public hearing. There were comments in regards to previous wetland filling that had been done at the site. Since the last public hearing, we conducted a site walk. Jeff Hassett from my office, Amy Walkie, Art Allen, to review the locations that had been filled in. Our wetland scientists prepared a replication plan. That's what's depicted on the screen here, to try to restore those areas that had previously been filled. I'd also note that we've scaled back the proposed project on the site, which is the addition and barn on the property. We've removed the proposed barn off of First Parish Road and the driveway associated with it in its entirety. So you'll see that there's no barn proposed off of First Parish Road. It's just the addition off the existing house now. What we had when we first looked at this site, we had a wetland delineation that was done just this past year by Brad Holmes. But that, again, did not line up with a previous wetland delineation that was done in 2011. It was depicted on an ANR subdivision plan of this property from 2011. The area of this backyard certainly has been filled and altered in area. So what our proposal here is it's broken up really into 3 parts. What's shaded in the brown location would be a wetland enhancement area. This is a wetland area that is predominantly invasive species currently. It would be, the invasive species would be removed and additional plantings would be put in its place. The second portion of the restoration would be the area highlighted in green. That's the wetland restoration area. That's currently lawn surface. We would remove the lawn and we would remove the fill that was placed associated with that lawn and put down new wetlands plantings in that location. To prevent future encroachment into either of those areas, we're proposing a new split rail fence, which would be delineated on this. We're also relocating the shed that is out at the property right now along the edge of the wetlands. You can see the relocated location depicted here. And thirdly, associated with the restoration, there does remain area on this site, approximately 2,795 square feet, that was depicted as wetland area on that 2011 plan. That currently is lawn area and patio associated with this house. You know, the applicant believes that he had done work there, you know, by talking with the previous conservation agent, but we understand that that area was filled. It's 2,795 square feet. But what we would like to propose is off-site mitigation to be used at the Conservation Commission's discretion. Brad Holmes worked up some numbers based off of material costs as well as labor costs to replicate an area of that size. And the applicant would be donating a sum of money, approximately $5,384, that the commission could use for off-site mitigation as it sees fit on another property. I turn it over to you for further questions.
Thanks, Greg. Maybe before we have any members weigh in, I'd like to get Art.
Could I ask one quick question, Frank, before they start explaining? Because I'm confused on one point.
Okay.
The patio, Greg, is that the patio right behind the house, the existing single family?
Yes, it is. That's the existing patio. We're not proposing to alter it in any way. It would remain
No,
in
well,
place.
what I'm trying to figure out, was that always on this side of the 50-foot buffer, or has the buffer line moved over time because of fill?
Sure. So the original wetland line from that 2011 plan almost came up and touched the back corner of this house.
Okay, thank you. That's all I needed to know. Yep. Okay.
All right,
Um,
Art
thank you,
Allen
Frank.
from Ecotech,
Good evening.
peer
Art.
reviewer for the Conservation Commission. Should I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Yep, I agree with Greg's synopsis, in terms of how this all developed, at least since I've been involved. I agree with their approach. I mean, there were two options basically to reestablish the wetland boundary on this site that I proposed to them, that either they could adopt that prior wetland boundary, or that we could do more on-site work, potentially with an excavator to try to establish a new wetland boundary. They opted to use the old boundary, which I'm perfectly comfortable with myself. And I believe they've, again, it appears to be an honest assessment of kind of the prior and existing conditions. Obviously a bit of a novel approach to mitigation and restoration. I fully agree with their proposed on-site restoration and enhancement plan. I agree, in terms of the conditions, invasive species, existing fill. I think everything that they're proposing on site is definitely heading in the right direction. The only other on-site comments I had were just that I had recommended, if the commission does accept this plan or some form of this plan, is to, I just said they should probably have a conservation wetland no disturb markers. I think you folks have a template for that along those restoration limits, which would be the proposed fence and the existing wall. That's their kind of, well-defined limits where they could add some signage. Also, if the commission chooses to accept this approach, clearly they're proposing work, previously unpermitted fill and work within the 50-foot setback. And I mean, at the very least, I would think that they would need to request a waiver from that setback and have some, justification / hardship. I mean, obviously it's a small, tight lot and they don't have much of a yard for a family. I can see why they want to preserve some of that back lawn area that was disturbed, but again, kind of a significant precedent, both in the work that's remaining in the 50-foot setback and their approach for off-site restoration, which, I mean, that's not really a novel approach on a global scale, because outside of Massachusetts, they do off-site mitigation, and the Army Corps commonly does off-site mitigation. But certainly for Massachusetts, and I would think in Scituate, this is a pretty novel approach to mitigation. And with potentially, I guess, with a waiver in place and justification, maybe you could avoid setting precedent by doing this, but something to be aware of. Thank you.
Thanks, Art. Amy?
Yeah, thanks, Art, for those comments. So I agree. I agree that this would be a novel approach. I don't know. I mean, all right, a couple, like, administratively, we definitely need to, whatever you do, keep this going forward under both enforcement order. And if you want to accept a restoration order, they would go concurrently. I am a little bit concerned about the history of this project and owner, just in how things have proceeded with the unpermitted fill. And there was a lot of discussion about moving the shed, and then it seems like the shed got bigger and never got moved. And I see that, I mean, it all looks maybe okay on paper, but I just, when it comes down to it, I am concerned about follow through. And also, if you accept this as your new buffer, part of the area that had been resource area was up against the Otts property. So there was a swath, towards First Parish. So that would, if they restore that too, then that would make the front part of the lot where they had formerly proposed a garage / barn building would also be in the buffer. But under this scenario, it's outside of the buffer. So I think you could expect that, even though that's not part of this notice of intent, that it clearly wouldn't be off the table. And in fact, this plan would give that, I think, some acknowledgement and momentum to go forward, because it would be outside the 100. So, and then also, I mean, they're pretty much doubling the size of the house with the addition. So I guess I would like to know and just verify that this doesn't trigger the stormwater bylaw. And even so, impacts to abutters from drainage from the new roof area. And if, we like to see infiltrators, but I don't know, this groundwater looks pretty shallow, so I'm not sure those are going to work. Yeah, those are a few of my thoughts.
Okay. Trying to remember who went out there. Penny, I know you were there, I was
Yes.
there.
You and I. That was it.
The applicant was there too.
And the
Yeah,
applicant, right?
no, but I mean, from the.
Commission
Oh, commission,
members.
sorry.
Yeah. Penny, do you want to let us give us your thoughts then first?
Okay, well, my first thought is we have in the past on tight lots taken mitigation in the form of money for us to use at our discretion in a conservation project. So this is not a novelty for Frank and myself since we've been on the board. It has happened, not a lot of times, but it does happen. And it usually is a site that is tricky. And in order for us to get, we get but I would want the funding of that upfront before any work is done. Because we have one person who to this day, we're still trying to collect the money. The rest of this, I really, the fencing, yes, we'd need the post, the signage on there. It is a small lot. The addition, I really don't have a problem with that. I don't know. I kind of like the plan. I think, and it will definitely be up to conservation to keep an eye on it and make sure that it is done properly and it's done in a timely fashion. To be honest with you, if I have my way, the restoration of the wetlands and the shed moving would happen immediately before he puts his addition on. That's a caveat, the addition. I would want the conservation work done first.
Okay.
To
Good
make
idea.
sure it gets done and is done properly. Okay, other than that, I really don't have a major issue with what they've come up with.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Super. Jen? You had any thoughts on this one?
Sorry, I kept muting and unmuting myself. I think I echo all of Amy's comments, so I don't have anything necessarily new to add there. I do love the split rail fence idea. I think it is a great thing for projects to be doing, so I'm very much in favor of that. I don't love how close the shed still is in the 50. So that's not something, and other than that, I echo all of Amy's other concerns. I don't necessarily follow what was being said about the buffer between the aughts and the applicant, but maybe we can come back to that.
Okay. Andy?
Yeah, my question is related to that, and I think to what Amy was referencing, that the wetland came across the lot where that narrow piece sticks out, and it doesn't look to me like that looks like an area that could be replicated, right? Like there's no patio, there's no house there. So I guess I'm wondering and maybe hoping we could extend the green area, from the area, the point closest to First Parish to then go across the lot the way it was in the prior plans.
Okay. Brendan?
Yeah, so I guess I'm not crazy about where the shed is. Still, it's close there, but I guess so. This idea of this, taking the money instead of replication, we're doing this. So there's 2,795 square feet.
Mhm.
So the amount of money is to replicate that much area, but where are we replicating it? Like, where is it actually going to happen? We're still losing almost 2,800 square feet of wetland here.
So I don't think the money would necessarily be to replicate something else. In a couple of cases, Brendan, where they had a site that they couldn't meet all the requirements, they came up with a figure. And this is just one way to derive a figure. So they wanted to come up with some sum of money to donate, if you will, or pay for another project. The one that comes to mind out on Third Cliff was that the money that was supposed to come to the commission was supposed to be used to protect the plovers. Had me on the spit. So if the commission had a project in mind that we thought that would be beneficial and offset some of this mitigation, we would use that money accordingly. And they were just trying to come up with a way to quantify that, have a value. And they chose to use what it would cost them to replicate it as a way to come up with a figure. That's my take on how the rationale to come up with $5,000 or whatever it is. But if there was a place in town that we thought was disturbed or needed to be repaired, or maybe there's insufficient drainage or something somewhere, or some cleaning, but you may not use it to just create or do replication somewhere. And I should let the meeting keep going, but I don't think it was necessarily to do that, but to be able to have the funds available to do something meaningful in some direction.
I understand. I'm just, that's still $2,800 square feet. So.
Yeah, no, I get it. And that's part of the discussion tonight is, do we feel that that's.
But I guess there are some wins here as well, so.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay. Richard?
I get Brendan's concern, and I just don't know if some of that footage could still be covered by restoration. I think that's an open question. Penny is right. We've done this before. In the 10 years I've been there, I can think of 2 or 3 times when we've had offsite mitigation accepted. Otherwise, in the interest of brevity, I think Penny hit it right on the head. I'd like to see the restorations done first before the addition. I'd like to see the money up front. And I do like the stuff that has been done to try to get this straightened out.
Okay. Doug?
Well, actually, I have I think I'm going to direct my questions to Art. So we have, and because there's always an opportunity to educate people, and I'm one of them. So we have, so if you bear with me here, if Art's still on the line, is he?
I am.
Okay, so we have a wetland enhancement area and we have a wetland restoration area. And I realize there's a distinction between the two. But in the restoration area, let's say 10 years from now, ultimately that the combination of the green, which is the restoration, and the brown, which is the enhancement area, would those become wetland?
Yeah, that's the idea. The brown is a wetland area that's essentially overrun with invasive species and has, very low value in its existing conditions. So they would be basically converting that to native species. And then the green, they would actually be removing fill that was placed over the wetland, planting and creating well, putting the wetland back, basically. So those would both be, intended to be improved wetland areas.
Okay, so you hit my question there, that there will be some excavation then and change in topography
Correct.
to make this work. Because what I'm looking at drops from 20 foot down to 15, a 5 foot drop, like, I don't know, it's maybe 5% slope. My question was, and then you have a upland area between that and the existing wetlands on the abutters lot. And I understand they can't go in there and propose restoration on the abutters lot. But will it work is my main question. I mean, are we going to support that vegetation, and is that going to become an actual healthy wetland on that narrow 8-foot strip at that slope? Because if they excavate there, like the concern about Amy's concern about water drainage, the water is going to go out into the wetland. So you follow me with that, Art? Like, is that going to work? You've got this long sliver in there, and none of it's contiguous to the existing wetlands, except if the enhancement area takes root. Are we going to have a new wetland line that follows those two shapes at some point in the future?
Well, I think the wetland actually does. I mean, in my first site visit, I had comments about the accuracy of the wetland as currently delineated. I think the wetland does come along that strip, and in particular along the adjacent property.
Okay,
the
so
wetland does really come up to the edge of fill at the property line currently. So
okay. So you're saying between the wetland flags on the dotted blue line and the green restoration area, that's technically is probably, in your opinion, a wetland line.
correct. Yeah, that area was
Or a
always shown
wetland
as
area.
wetland on that former plan that we're referencing. from
Yeah,
the
I do
zoning.
remember that. I just was hard to tell how much fill and how much was destroyed, but you're kind of indicating that actually some of that exists in a state of a wetland now.
Right, because the applicant only filled up to his property line. It's it's basically natural grade on the other side.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay, thanks for that.
Yep.
I was just
Yep.
trying, I think that my main concern is this going to work?
Yeah,
Because
I think it will.
okay.
And we typically, you typically have a 2-year monitoring period, which should, I'd certainly recommend as a condition. I mean, it's a standard thing to have, monitoring post-construction. And in that period, they can, do any replanting if anything fails, and work on invasive control during that period, and basically give it a good chance,
Yeah, and so then the applicant probably understands that 5-6 years from now, almost the entire house is in a 50-foot buffer.
Right.
So it further restricts, regulates the lot from any future additions or
Good point.
construction right there.
True.
So it's going to make it more restrictive in the long run. So I don't think he's. Having said all that I'm good with the plan as drawn.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the audience with any questions? See a hand up.
There was a hand up earlier.
Oh, there's a hand up. It's Karsten Ott. I'm gonna unmute Mr. Ott.
You on?
Yes, I'm here. Actually, this is Suzanne Atta. I'm from 56 First Parish Road.
Nice, thank you.
Hi, thanks for giving us an opportunity to comment. I had a question regarding the wetlands from the plan in 2011 that we had drafted. I noticed that the wetlands sort of swing around to the back corner of our lot. and butts into it a bit. And I know that there's some fill on the opposite side of our stockade fence on our neighbor's property that makes that corner even wetter. So I'm wondering, what are our options to sort of manage any drainage that would continue to come off of there? And what are our limitations in terms of that corner being wetland on our lot?
I could take a stab at it.
Okay,
If this plan is accepted, there essentially are no wetlands in that corner in terms of what's being shown here on the plan, because, you know, they would be doing, you know, they would be including that former wetland in their mitigation plan for offsite. So that's as far as I see it, that's what I think.
So it negates the wetlands that we were assuming were part of that. So essentially, we could go in and put fill into that corner to level up with the neighbors. So there wouldn't be a wet mess in our corner of the yard.
In theory, yes.
In theory, okay. And I guess my second question is, looking at the 2011 plan, when we had the survey done, we were considering buying a lot adjacent to our existing lot. So we were looking at buying the whole 88 feet of frontage out to Greg Davies' property, so that it wouldn't be that pork chop lot that we have today for 7 Dunbar. The reason why we weren't able to do that was because we were told there were wetlands that existed that made 7 Dunbar, it had to be in compliance, in other words, to be a certain amount of footage upland. So they had to divide the lot that we purchased and leave that pork chop piece to make it a legal property to sell. Had this been true, had we had the existing plan of wetlands as it is today, and as it was proposed on the former plan that was submitted by Mr. Morse, we would have bought the whole lot, and we wouldn't have ever even talked about having an addition on that pork chop piece. So I guess that was our big concern all along, was how did the wetlands move so dramatically from what it was in 2011 to what it is now?
And I guess I can start. Largely because of the fill that was placed illegally, and that's part of the reason for that they're in front of the commission tonight, is that they filled wetlands and altered wetlands, and we're trying to get back to some semblance of compliance, you know, with this current plan. So
sure. Yeah, I understand. I just wanted to voice for the record our disappointment about back in 2011. We would have made the purchase. We would have done it, and it would be a done deal. And not to whine about it, but that's really, I was surprised when the new plan had come out and there was just no wetlands there. And I thought, how does that happen? How did that disappear from what we were told we couldn't do because of the wetlands? So that's all I wanted to add. And I appreciate your comments, Art, as far as the scientific end of it, because I don't have the expertise. So thank you.
Just one comment, so Mrs. Odd. So you're saying you live to the left or in front of? Actually, you're in front of.
I live in front of Mr. Kelleher, so we face First Parish, and yeah, it's 56 First Parish.
Okay, so there's just a little corner of your property that's in the 100-foot buffer, according to this plan.
Yeah, but it's pretty wet, and if I can put some soil down to absorb that, I would do it. If it's not wetland.
Our concern is primarily in the summer. This is Carsten Otte, I'm Suzanne's husband, 56 First Parish. Our concern is primarily in the summer, the mosquitoes that can breed there, and
it's just a swampy mess. Yeah, we'd like to dry it out if we can.
Okay. Is there anybody else in the
I think
audience?
Yeah, I see
sorry.
Greg Davy has his hand up. Mrs. Otta, you're all set?
I'm all set.
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Davy? Can we unmute him?
Should be set.
Okay. You good now?
Yes, you're on.
Okay, Greg Davy, 51st Parish Road. Can I ask a question? I mean, we've come to the conclusion that the wetlands have been altered through illegal activity. And now it seems that with this new proposal, while it's not on this plan, there will be a benefit of a buildable lot or buildable section of upland, with the portion on 51st on First Parish Road that was not previously buildable. And people bought their properties. I bought my properties with the complete awareness that that was unbuildable. And now there's been illegal activity, and now it seems that a proposal is being put forward where, while it's not on the plan right now, that becomes buildable. I don't understand why we wouldn't at least consider putting a restriction in there, because it seems wholly unfair to us that we purchased this property based upon the fact that that was not buildable. There's been illegal activity, and now that will be buildable. In a building or structure there will do significant damage to the value of our property. And so, I'd like you guys to take that into consideration, that this is being artificially proposed, and we made decisions based upon the environment being how the environment actually was, not how it is being arbitrarily proposed to be redrawn. I don't mind the putting in, Greg putting on his additions and moving a shed. That seems all fine to us. We appreciate that he wants to do that, but having the even possibility of something being proposed there later, even though it's been taken off of the mark now, just seems terribly unjust for us. And we would probably look to appeal should a decision that would ever allow that property to be buildable in the future.
And I guess I'm not quite following your logic with that. This lot, the commission wouldn't have jurisdiction. We have jurisdiction over things that are in the buffer. So the 100-foot buffer goes partially up into that area that you're talking about. So,
well, Frank, that's a artificial 100-foot buffer, which was based upon an altered environment. That entire space is well within the 50-foot buffer of where the 2011 plan put the wetlands. So if you look at where that tree was, that tree at the corner of the lot that's on the corner of 50, of First Parish and Dunbar, that tree, the wetlands were north of the tree, north into the west of the tree, making it so that and extending into that area. The wetlands would certainly protrude much further up than that if you go by the 2011 survey that was done, and that we're proposing just be picked up and put somewhere else. And now we have a convenient upland section which could be built upon in the future.
well,
All these lines are arbitrary. They're not, they're all based upon illegal activity, as has been, pointed out many times on this call.
so the commission has the option of either denying this and tell them to restore something different than this if we think that that's feasible, or we would look at this mitigation as something that's positive. It seemed to me like when we visited the site, there's lots of altered areas in that area, on Mr. Kelleher's property and on other properties. There's fill dumped and different things where the line clearly has been relocated over the years. But that's something for the commission to consider. But we don't really regulate someone else's property in that regard. I mean, the commission is dealing with the Wetlands Protection Act, the resource area to the brook.
Okay.
Those are the kind of pieces that we're we're going to address.
Good.
But your point is well made, so something for the commission to consider.
Can I just ask a clarification question to Mr.
Sure.
Davy?
Yep.
He's muted again now, so if we could put him back on, but so Mr. Davy, I'd like, based on this plan, if accepted, the new, and I understand what you're saying, that where the all the buffer zones would have been taken from the original wetland, but not this one. But this, to my question earlier, that new wetland line comes all the way up to the end of that green. So the new 50-foot buffer is about where the 100-foot buffer is now. So is your concern that sliver that goes down to First Parish Road, that he might put a shed there or something?
It is. It is. So that is highly elevated right above my porch, and I have all glass on one side of my house. So if anything goes there, what I wind up with is someone that is just looking inside my house all day long. And the it's 8 foot. It's 8 foot by 4 foot by 8 foot panels, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 of them. That I'd have to look to either alter the house or do something with, as well as this looks down. It would be hanging out almost over my only outdoor space, which is my patio. The property has a history of Airbnb, and my one of my concerns is this just becomes another Airbnb.
So I think anything he would build in there all the way up to that setback line would be within at least 100. It would have to be fairly small.
That's true, but we still have the possibility of something going in there.
Okay. All right. Thanks. I just trying to really clearly understand. That helps explain your concerns. Thanks.
Do we have anybody else in the audience? Is it with the
No, it doesn't look like we do, Frank. You know what? I just wanted to say a couple more thoughts, and that is, this plan is kind of taking a large step forward from what we had discussed as the way to resolve, like accuracy issues, so that the first recommendation that Art had made and was agreed to by the applicant was to go out there and accurately delineate just where the wetlands were. So from there, you would, your numbers would be more accurate. You would definitely have a handle on what was going on along the property line with the yachts, because I strongly can see how that affects the buffer and whether or not the 50 is going to go up all the way to the First Parish, and whether or not that could be potentially buildable. I mean, we know in the beginning, this started out with an addition and a garage up by First Parish. So we know that that's definitely a goal of the owner, but avoid, minimize, mitigate. I mean, I can't say that these are all things that shouldn't be entertained, because I think in the end of the day, they should be, but I think that they should be based on accuracy out of the gate, which is not, this is taking a lot of assumptions into mind.
Amy, are you saying that there wasn't like soil testing, or what would give us more confidence in what's here?
Right. So that the proposed assessment was soils. Art was going to get together with the wetland scientists, and they were going to do some soil evaluation and just figure out where the limit of fill was and what would be considered resource area.
And that did not happen?
No, not yet.
Oh, well, if that hasn't happened, then this all feels, I don't necessarily know that we know what we have in front of us.
I could clarify if you like.
Please, Art.
So I did some sampling to my first site visit to determine that the line that they showed on this 2021, 2022 plan was not accurate, that there was wetland upgrading, and then additional information came to light about the previous delineation. And that was in discussion both at the site walk, and then some discussions I had with Brad Holmes, the applicant's wetland scientist. And I'm the one who threw out the two different options in discussions with Brad, from my perspective of either, attempting to establish a new boundary with soil testing, or to adopt that previous, much more extensive boundary from 2011, which was established, before the fill and alteration happened. And I mean, and I've done a lot of this, post disturbance, investigation. And I mean, it's difficult to do. It's, not always the most accurate thing. I mean, where it was just my thought, where we had the benefit of a pre-alteration boundary, that I just felt that, we don't usually have that luxury. We usually come into a disturbed site and have to piece it all back together. I just thought that was, in my opinion, the most accurate and conservative approach, in subsequent discussions. So that's how they ended up here. I mean, if the commission doesn't feel that's appropriate, then we can definitely go out and, do soil testing. But I think if we do soil testing, I mean, it's not even guaranteed to get to where we were in 2011. I mean, we may end up, with a smaller wetland. I don't know until we get in there, but these highly disturbed sites are difficult to figure out after the fact. And I just thought we had the benefit of a pre-disturbance boundary, and why not use it? So that was my thought.
Okay.
Sorry, Frank, we have a hand up.
Yeah, Mr. Davy, again, I do want to try to move this along at some point. We get a lot of other.
Okay, well, Mr. Davy, if you keep it extremely short, please.
Yeah, Greg Davy, 51st Parish Road again. I mean, what would prevent, simply adding, a section near that oak tree to be wetlands, and then go and then going from that? It seems like a simple addition. I mean, to come as close as possible to as before. I mean, there's really no reason I can see as to why you wouldn't just declare those wetlands.
Well,
let them build everything that's built, but
if they're wetlands, that's going to have a pretty significant impact on your neighbor's property as well. They were just talking about filling or grading,
yeah,
in their property.
But it was wetlands, so that's my point.
Well, that wetlands line, I don't believe that was ever confirmed. Am I right about that? That was a wetlands line that was shown.
It was, but I can say having no, I can't say that was confirmed. Whether the map was confirmed, but I can tell you.
So the process when we do this to confirm a wetlands line is an applicant can have some sort of a project and they put a wetlands line on the plan. And if it's not a significant project or whatever, the commission can just accept that. Or we may make a note on the plan saying that we're not necessarily accepting the wetlands line, but we don't see significant work to be done. At this point, we have a wetland scientist out there reviewing another wetland scientist's work. As I said, there's a whole bunch of things going on that property. It's the bottom of a hill.
It's on the bottom of a hill that sits on a huge clay bed.
Mhm.
That, I can dig a hole anywhere. It'll fit, 10 feet up, it'll fill with water. I will say that just in closing, and then I'll let it go, that I could not walk to this property without losing my shoes in mud at any time from spring till early fall. Previously. So I don't I'm no expert in terms of what constitutes as wetlands, but I have walked around on the street to avoid losing my shoes to those muddy areas in the past. So
Okay. All right. Thank you. Does anybody else in the commission have any other questions, comments? Have a motion?
I'll make a motion
Well,
when you're ready.
Yeah, we have Mrs. Otta would just like to have some follow-up comments, Frank.
Yep.
Short comments.
Hi, Suzanne Otta, 56 First Parish, just 10 seconds. I have no problem with that corner remaining wet if it's a wetlands point, as it was delineated in 2011 by Brad Holmes, who also did the plan in 2021. So we don't have a problem leaving it as is. My point was just to level up. If the plan was accepted as it is, we wanted to find a way to mitigate the muck in the corner of our yard, but we're fine leaving it as untouched wetlands. And if you want to test on our soil, you're welcome to do that. That's all I wanted to add. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you. All right. Does anybody have any follow-up questions or comments after the information we've got?
Yeah, well, again, I had raised that area earlier, Frank, Sandy.
Sorry.
If I'm hearing, no, I was just going back to it. If I'm hearing this correctly, we didn't do as much extensive testing because we were relying on the earlier plan. And the earlier plan does show wetlands across the lot there. So we didn't, I feel like we should either ask them to follow the prior plan, if that's sort of what we're relying on, or do the testing there. Because it does feel like to me that piece of wetland across that thin section of lot does make a big difference on the outcome of this. So I feel like we should know whether it was wetland or not as best we can.
I would agree with Andy.
I know.
If I may interject for a minute, this is Greg Morse.
Sure.
The 2011 wetland line, as you look at this plan here, did cut across to the Otta property, as it was shown in 2011. Since that time, my client has certainly placed fill on his property. Work has been done on the Otta property as well as the Davy property as well, which has altered those areas. What we're proposing to do here is we're proposing to take that area from 2011 and as if it was there and offer the money for the offsite mitigation of that area. It doesn't exist today as a wetland area. Our wetland scientist didn't delineate it as an area, and Art, if he's still on, could probably speak to it as well, but I don't believe it's a wetland area in today's sense. In 2011, it may have been. We're proposing the restoration money as if it was there in either case.
Okay.
Maybe Art should weigh in on that because I think it would be a wetland. It's a filled wetland. That area.
There's new lawn on the abutting property. There's a fence that's been installed. There's been a sewer line that ran from 7 Dunbar up to First Parish Road that all have altered that area, extensively since that 2011 line was originally delineated.
All right, anybody else, any other commission members? Does anybody want to make a motion?
I make a motion to close with the stipulations that I mentioned in the beginning, if this goes forward, the money is up front and the plantings are up front before he starts to build.
And by agreeing to closing, we're saying what?
Well, I
I
think would be accepting the applicant's proposal here for restoration of these areas and then and the new wetlands line. I assume.
And to go along with that, Frank, Art does not have any objection to this plan. So I have to rely on a wetland scientist. Things
Yeah,
do,
my only concerns were to add the conservation markers along the limit of work
yeah,
and,
well, those will be put in.
and
all
to,
right.
that they should formally request a waiver of the setbacks.
Yeah,
Okay,
those would be in the orders, Art.
I'm not going to second that because I am going to say no.
That's fine.
Okay. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Correct me if I'm wrong here, Frank, but when closing the hearing we're closing the comment section of the hearing. We're not going to take any input. It doesn't mean we've approved
That's correct.
plan. So there's further discussion amongst, so there's still a chance to.
So the commission members
You
could-
can close the hearing and still vote no on the plan.
Right, but I don't necessarily need to vote no on a plan, but I would like to understand that potential wetland at the corner. And if we close it, I don't think we get to understand that.
Okay, well,
So, can I ask
I'll
ahead.
second the motion to close it. So I had a similar, we bought a lot that had been filled, part of it, and the difficulty of trying to determine where the real wetland line was, which we requested to do, not where I live now, but previously in Marshfield, was really difficult for the scientists. I realized they're not magic. They can't remove 6 feet of fill or whatever and figure out what the world used to look like under there. So I don't know that you're going to get in my opinion, you're not going to get a definitive, unarguable decision at the end of the process.
Can I? Thank you, Doug. I appreciate that. Just a quick question to Art and maybe to help this along a little bit. If you were to do soil samples in that corner, Art, do you think that there's a possibility that we would have an isolated wetland in that location?
I think it was all part of the bordering vegetated wetland originally. It's.
Right, but
Yeah,
now
I mean,
that
I think there was, obviously there was a house here in 2011, so there had been some alteration prior to that on the property, but I think, there was a remnant part of the bordering wetland that wrapped around that part of the house, and there's groundwater breaking out on that slope coming down from First Parish. So I'm pretty convinced that was bordering vegetated wetland, albeit a remnant of some historical, probably larger wetland. And I mean, if the commission wanted to have additional restoration in that area, I think it could be done. Whether the applicant wants to do it or not, it could be done.
well, I guess my question is if you were to do sampling in that location, both on Mr. Kelleher's property and on the Ott's property, maybe even on Mr. Davies' property, would there be would you wind up with a small circle or something of an isolated wetland in that location, given the changes that have been made on the property now?
I think given the changes that have been made since 2011, I think we would probably end up connecting it through the fill. I think it may be isolated now, but it's isolated by fill that was placed since 2011 is what it appears to me.
So if you were to run that line out, would it change the outcome of this project, I guess, is my question to both you and Greg Morse. So I don't know how you determine that line other than by soils or something like that, but let's say that I mean, the wetlands line that I'm seeing is a lot of it's off property. But there might have been another one where Brad had flagged it before.
Yeah, I mean, I think just there was a lot more water on the lot prior to the fill, and I think the fills really altered that whole drainage pattern coming off the slope. So that's why I say I think the 2011 line, you know, that area was all vegetated. There was woody vegetation in there and no fill. So I think, you know, it's just the whole drainage pattern has been altered in that area. And that's why I say I think the 2011 line was probably the most accurate line we're going to get back to base, you know, to base the plan on.
Okay, so if that, in the commission accepting this proposal, if a wetlands line was delineated to show that, and it showed up on the plan, obviously the setbacks would be different. But there's still a structure here. So what would that? What would that change?
If we went back to the 2011 line in totality, or?
And just showed it as a line, just.
Well, they would have no backyard.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, that clearly the whole thing could be restored.
Well, I guess I'm not saying that, but I'm just trying to say if there's another way to designate that area.
Well, I mean, I think it could be that corner up in the pork chop. I mean, towards the Otters. I mean, that could be incorporated into this restoration plan and connected to the larger wetland around the fill that's going to remain. I mean, it's, you know, that little neck of wetland coming up could just be extended up and to the left and, you know, into that 2011 part, at least part of that 2011 area. I mean, you could just increase the amount of on-site restoration and still leave them some yard area. And if the commission chose to ask for that.
Frank?
Yep, go ahead, Richard.
I don't want to speak for Andrew, but I think that's what he was referring to, and I like the idea of that. And I'd ask Andrew, is that what you were referring to?
Yeah, that's what I've been getting at.
Yep.
Okay.
This is Greg Morse speaking. So am I hearing that it might be the request of the commission to replicate almost another, say, 200 square feet or so right at that corner of the property in that area that used to be the 2011 line, instead of paying the mitigation money for that? You know, that portion there, I'm fairly confident that is where the sewer line for this house runs up to First Parish Road. So, we'd be putting a wetland over top of that. And that would have impact certainly on both the butters properties. That would increase buffer zone onto both of them as well, where work has been done as well. So, and we are replicating it in a sense that we're providing full financial consideration for that area. But if you'd prefer that additional, 200 square feet or so of area to be planted on this site, we can certainly add that. I just don't see that it's going to be a significant benefit to this wetland ecosystem at this site. If you look at the wetlands along the Scituate Brook and along the back of all the houses along First Parish Road, they generally follow a contour and they're fairly well set back on the lots. This is an abnormality at this property where there's this finger protrusion that comes up toward First Parish Road. I don't know the source of what creates this wetland here, whether it's runoff from the school and the church across the street or how this was created, but the wetland system along Scituate Brook and all of the houses on the back of First Parish Road is a fairly parallel line with the brook. This is not normal in this location, but we can replicate it at this site if you think it's beneficial. I really don't see the benefit of it, in my opinion, though.
That's Greg.
Okay, thank you. Well, we've been at this for an hour and 15 minutes.
Frank, can I just throw this out here too, is by closing, so you wouldn't be taking any more information, but you'd be coming up with, I guess, more or less accepting a version of this plan with special conditions.
Yeah.
But I mean, like one point where you might want to keep it open is well, going back to Art's, the request for waivers, like let's see it in writing, how it makes sense. And then another one would be just how did they come up with this offsite mitigation number to begin with? It seems kind of arbitrary. Like I feel like it just doesn't seem to make sense, but so you could take additional information if you continued it, but I also, given our load of cases, I can see how you would want to move this too. So I get both sides, but I just feel like there's a lot of assumptions based on this. And now I almost feel like there could be missing information if Greg's saying there's a sewer line here. I mean, I don't understand, that's not on the plan, but anyways, just additional food for thought.
Kind of pondering this for a second. Chris, do you want to let Mrs. Ott make a comment real quick?
Sure, I'll unmute Mrs. Ott.
Yeah, Carsten Otte, 56 First Parish. I just want to correct an impression that I got from the statement of Mr. Morse. So we have not put any fill down. We have not seeded any grass. All the grass that's currently on the property has grown naturally. So I just want to make sure that that was recognized as well.
Okay, thank you. I guess we could continue this one more time and ask the applicant to, it seems like it's the consensus, what I'm getting from the commission is that they'd like to see some, maybe a continuation of that wetland line into where the other one was. Andy, am I reading that correctly? So I don't know how you would come up with that. It would just be sort of an arbitrary line. Art, am I at this stage?
Well, I guess as much of the 2011, wetland reclaimed in that area as possible. They have that as a baseline, so.
Yeah, we would overlay the two lines and you would see the original line on this plan.
All right. Well, I think in order to get a real fair Unless somebody else in the commission wants to make a motion. I think right now we had a motion on from Penny to close. And I can't remember if we had a second or not.
You did, Doug.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Do we want to vote that first to see if we want to close?
I do.
What do you want to get some more information or a different plan?
I'm gonna vote no to closing, so I don't know if we need to go around the ring, but my motion would be to, we can't have competing motions.
Sure. Well, let's take a vote. So we have a motion and a second, all in favor of closing. Richard,
No,
Jen,
No,
Andy,
No.
Brendan.
No.
Okay. So do we
now I'll
want to
make
get
a motion to continue.
Let's do that.
I second that.
Just don't know to when.
All right, so we have a motion from
Richard,
Richard and a second from
Brendan.
Brendan.
we need a
So,
date though.
What do we have for date to continue to?
16th or what, the next one in June?
Well, what's
June-
gonna be accomplished by,
Well,
well,
I
actually,
think,
it can't go to May 16th because that agenda is full. So it,
Okay.
it could go to June
6th.
6th or 20th, but I think we
Jen-
need to be clear about what you're looking for.
so it's, I think Jen's saying that June 6th to 20th, and I think Greg and I'd have a pretty good handle on what they need to do.
Jen Smith saying the 20th,
The 6th.
the 6th. Okay, yeah, that's good.
And I believe between Art and Brad and Greg, they could come up with a plan for that.
Based on the conversation that we've just had in the last
I think so.
hour.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Okay.
Okay, now you're gonna vote.
So we have a June, we said June 6th.
Yep.
So all in favor, Doug,
Sure.
Penny,
Yeah.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
You
Yes.
seconded.
Frank, yes. Oh, Brendan second, sorry, and Frank, yes.
Jen,
Wow. Okay. Have I got everybody?
you
Yep.
forgot me.
Jen, I'm sorry. I thought you said,
Doesn't matter.
wow. It does.
Richard,
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Richard, you're gonna have to read that statement 100 times. Maybe we'll-
I've done it enough times. Jen can do it.
All right, let's do something quick here. Number 7, the Driftway, they've requested a continuance to.
See you guys. Have a good night.
All right, thanks so
Thank
much.
you, Art.
Thanks, Art.
Yep, thanks,
No problem.
Greg.
There's no time here to be continued to.
So how do we do that?
Okay, so 7 New Driftway is request to continue to a date to be determined. So
that means
that's
we're
going to be
have
established
re-advertise it?
after we receive the plan that they keep promising us.
And then they're gonna have to re-advertise the meeting date?
Correct.
Okay. So I'll take a motion
So what's the motion to continue?
to a date to be
Till whenever.
determined.
Yeah, to be determined.
So Penny made the motion.
I'll second it.
Richard made a second.
Sorry, am I
Excuse me.
boring you?
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
All in favor, Doug,
Sure.
Jen.
Yes.
Jen,
yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
thank you so much. 49 Rebecca Road. This is Daniel and Wendell Sullivan, Grady Engineering.
Brady Ross.
Grady Ross Engineering.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Wow.
Okay, so on this one, we've had it, batted it around I think this is gonna be our third or fourth time. And I just unmuted Paul Mirabito. He did submit a plan with some proposed plantings on it to see if he could sweeten the deal here.
Okay, Paul?
Hey, Paul,
Paul went to bed.
can't blame him.
Me, I don't.
He's here.
Yeah, he looks like he's unmuted, so.
Paul, go ahead if you can. You're unmuted.
His microphone's not on or something.
Hey, Paul, come on. Now you gotta unmute. There he is. No?
No, can't hear him.
What's going
Paul, can you call in on your phone or something? You just go back to the link. Or get Barbara to help you with that.
Try gently tapping on your computer with a hammer.
Yeah,
So this entire structure is in the 50, folks. Do you see where the 50-foot line is?
Yeah,
Okay. Talked about it like 3 different times. This is the mitigation that was proposed. I think you could probably close this one.
wonder if I want to deny it.
you can still close.
Right, yeah. So I make a motion, we
Close.
make a motion, we close 47
No,
North Road.
Can we just move on to the next? I want to give the applicant the chance to at least speak to this if he can figure it out. Let's move on to the next one, Paul, when you can reach us.
Okay, so now this one's going to be a request to continue 3 Seagate
Yep.
to 622, Frank.
Okay, do I have a motion for
I
that?
make a motion to continue 3 Seagate to June 22nd.
Do I have a second?
Yeah,
Second, Andy.
Second from Andy. All in favor, Richard,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes,
Jen,
Yes,
and Brendan?
Yes.
Frank, yes. Okay, thank you.
And
Is that
now the
Paul?
next one's 107 Turner,
Am I
request to
hearing-
continue to 6-6.
Okay,
make a motion to continue 107 Turner to June 6th.
Second, Andy.
do we have to open? Wait a minute. Sorry, Jen, what was it? I need to open 107. Thank
Oh,
you, Jen.
okay, we'll open it.
Oh, okay, open
Apologies.
and then immediately continue. Yeah, okay.
On May 2nd, 2022, 6 PM, the Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Suzanne and James Malarkey for work related to elevating a single-family dwelling at location at 107 Turner Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meeting is available on the agenda posted on the website. Okay. So who do we have?
Continue
And so we're just going to continue this to when? I'm sorry.
June 6th.
All right, so that's a motion from Penny. A second from somebody,
Second, Andy.
second from Andy. All in favor, Richard,
Yes.
Doug,
yes.
Jen,
yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Thank you. Do we hear from Paul yet?
Doesn't sound like it.
Okay. 210 Central Ave. On May 2nd, 2022, 6 PM, the Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws, the application of Michael and Lisa Pratt for work related to constructing a pier, ramp, piles, canoe, kayak rack at location 210 Central Ave, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting is available on the agenda posted on the town website.
We have Pat Brennan on the call for this.
Okay.
And I think Kevin might be on too, but I don't see him on. But anyway, so Pat can present.
Great.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Pat Brennan, 49 Tupelo Road in Marshfield. Here with me is Kevin McGuire. We were working on this for Michael and Lisa Pratt at 210 Central Ave in Hummerock. What they're proposing is a pile supported pier with a float in the South River. And basically what we have is starting from the edge of, it's across the street from 210 Central Avenue. There's a pier on either side of this property. This pier would be centered on the property, starting roughly coming about 15 feet off the edge of the pavement would be a 3-foot by 10-foot ramp up to the pile supported pier, which would be roughly 72 feet long, 4 foot wide, supported on 5 sets of piles. At the end of the water end of the pier would be a 7-foot by 6-foot canoe and kayak rack. The pier itself would have 2x6 decking, 1-inch spacing between the deck boards, railings on either side. From the end of the pier, it'd be a 3-foot wide by 32-foot long ramp down to a 10-foot by 24-foot float, pile supported float in the river. As I mentioned, there's piers and floats on either side of this property at 208 and 212 Central Avenue. The work is, in Hummerock, so it's obviously a barrier beach. It's in the riverfront area. The land under the ocean, coastal beach, land containing shellfish, fish run, and land subject to coastal storm flowage. Those are all shown, pretty much the limits of those are shown on the left side of that plan view that you're looking at. Kevin did meet with the harbor master to discuss the location of the float, and he met with him on January 25th, followed that up with an email that same day. And the harbor master did respond to that email, basically with just a thank you, but I believe we had included that in the submission to the Conservation Commission, so you're aware that the harbor master had looked at it. It's our belief that he was satisfied with the location of the float. I think that's pretty much it, unless you have anything else to add, Kevin. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Would be happy to answer any questions that the commissioners may have.
Okay. Amy?
Yeah, so we did get a DEP file number for this project, 682992. DEP commenting that this would need to go through the Chapter 91 process, so that these plans are specifically to get that license. Let's see, Harbor Master okay with plans. We did receive comments from Fish and Wildlife that were not particularly significant. I think that we could probably close this.
Frank, if you're talking, you're on mute.
Richard?
Actually, the only question I have is there enough space between what would be the 3 straight piers? There are 2, he's right, there are 2 already in existence. This would go between them. And I mean, I go by it all the time, and I'm just not sure about the spacing of it, or if I actually don't know if there are rules and regulations regarding spacing. Otherwise, I have no issues, but It's not a lot of space. I would say it's maybe 60 feet between the two that are existing now, and that's an estimate.
Right, and the harbor master had considered that, those spacing, and I think that, the state will definitely take a look at that under the chapter 91 process.
That's really the
Right.
only question I have. The rest of it's fine, and I couldn't, I have no problem with the engineering of it.
Doug?
Yeah, Army Corps got that. Yeah, I think it's 25 feet, so it does sound like it's gonna be tight. But yeah, we can, the Army Corps is gonna have the technical review on that part of it.
Okay, thank you. Penny,
I'm all set. Thank you.
Jen,
Yeah, all set.
Andy,
No questions for me.
Brendan?
No questions.
Okay. Anybody in the audience? Okay.
Seeing none.
Anybody want to make a motion?
Make a motion to close, please.
Okay, do we have a second?
I second that, Brendan.
Brendan, thank you. Richard?
Good. Yes.
Doug?
Yeah,
Jen?
Yep.
Andy?
Yes.
And Frank? Yes. Great, thank you. Thanks, Kevin. Okay, on to the next one. 25 Mill Wharf Plaza. In Pat. On May 2nd, 2022, at 6 o'clock PM, the Townhouse Situate Conservation Commission will hold a hearing under 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws, and Section 30700, Town of Situate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Kent Street Corporation for work related to removing not more than 40 cubic yards of gravel to restore boat slip access at marina location 25 Mill Wharf Plaza, Scituate, Mass. Others, abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posts on the website. And do we have somebody on for this?
I see Adam Brodsky on the call. I'm gonna unmute him.
Ms. Walke, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. Can you hear me?
We got you.
Thank you. Good evening,
Thanks.
everyone. My name is Adam Brodsky. I'm a local environmental and land use lawyer, and I'm here on behalf of Kent Street Corporation. Ken Duvall is the president of Kent Street Corporation, and Kent Street Corporation is the former operator of the Mill Wharf Marina. The marina is presently owned by TPG Marinas. David Ray, who is our surveyor and project engineer, is not available, so I'm going to pretend to be a surveyor. But this is fairly simple. During the summer of 2021, prior to the sale of the marina, there was a storm which caused gravel from the town parking lot to migrate into the harbor via the municipal stormwater system. There's a small amount of gravel that was discharged from the municipal drain. We've conservatively estimated it to be 40 cubic yards. It's likely much smaller than that, but it's in a location which prevents a small boat from getting to the southernmost slip at the marina. And we did a little hand sketch, which is shown as exhibit number 4 in the notice of intent. It's literally a little patch of gravel. The plan is to remove the gravel using a long-armed excavator located in the parking lot. So this is going to be done on land. The excavator is going to reach over the bulkhead, scoop up the gravel. Literally, it's a few shovels full of gravel, and put it into a dump truck to haul away. We estimate that this will take an hour or 2 at the most. The work has been authorized both by TPG as well as the town of Scituate, since we're doing work in the municipal parking lot. And again, we're simply removing the gravel that was deposited in that area and nothing else. This is a water dependent use project. So the standard for work within land under ocean is best available measures to minimize adverse effects. And there'll be no adverse effect to land under ocean here. In fact, I think we can make an argument that the gravel dumped here over the natural substrate is probably causing more impact than the removal of it. And again, land under ocean is not more stringently regulated under local bylaw. So literally an hour or two of work just to remove the gravel. Mr. Duval has agreed to pay for it. We had a discussion with the town about the town doing this work, but just to get this work done quickly prior to the start of the boating season, Mr. Duval is willing to pay for it. And I'm happy to answer any questions I can to the best of my ability.
Thank you. Amy?
Sure. So DEP issued a number for this project, 2993, noting that the work would need a Chapter 91 permitting because it's work over the seawall. I know that, Frank, me and Sean McCarthy, the town engineer, we did meet out there, and it is a little bit of a tight area. So we do have concerns about the work impacting the integrity of the wall in this corner. So just want to make sure that that's brought up, that any work that is permitted in that area should be proceed with caution, since it does, that the wall is a significant part of that part of the site, and wouldn't want anything to happen to that. There is a drain down there also. Oh, another comment I had was, as far as I see this is a common comment from the state, is the sediment on the bottom there. Is there an assumption that it's, that it needs to be tested just to make sure that the disposal criteria is met? Similar to dredge, but I think that would also maybe come under the 91 license. But yeah, those are my basic comments.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we don't think it needs a Chapter 91 license, but I'm happy to have that conversation with DEP. With respect to work near the wall, we're not going to do anything that's going to impair that sheet pile. Literally, the machine is going to reach over the edge and scrape the gravel off of the substrate. We're not going to be digging into the soil there, and we're not doing anything that would undermine anything that would relate to that sheet pile.
Okay. Normally I'd go around the commission, but it was Amy and myself and Sean that went out to take a look at this. So maybe I could just share that with you real quick. We'd been requested by Kent Street to look at this, and Adam, probably part of a year ago. And we did observe this at low tide, and there was some stone and sediment that has been running in. It's like wash from the parking lot, goes down into the drain, and then is spilled out into this area. But there's probably also some rocks and some things that need to be removed as well, or at least pulled back in order for a boat to get into this slip. So I think if Adam wants to pursue this with DEP and see if he doesn't, it's a pretty small area. And to Amy's point, I don't think the concern so much is the sheeting, Adam, but it's the seawall, the revetment that is around the drainage outfall pipe and along the side and back of the Coast Guard building, that doesn't get undermined when they dig.
Thank you. We're not proposing to do any work in that, in that area, but I understand the concern.
Okay. And so if you can resolve that with the Chapter 90, it just seems like it's a fairly simple maintenance piece that could be done relatively simply, is my own opinion. I'll go on to the commission members. Brendan?
No, I don't have a question about this.
Andy?
I'm okay right now.
Jen?
Yeah, I guess I'm a little confused about, it feels like chapter 91 definitely applies. So if we're agreed to look at it from that perspective, I'm good.
Penny?
I'm fine with it. It's a maintenance issue, I think.
Doug
No questions.
and Richard?
No questions. No questions.
So if we close this subject to Adam resolving the question of a chapter 91 license.
Well,
Is
no,
that-
we just close it and issue orders and then,
Okay.
and he can go separately.
Okay. Sounds good.
Make a motion to close.
Excuse me.
I second
Travis.
that.
That's from Brendan. All in favor, Doug,
Yes.
Penny,
Yep.
Jen,
Yep.
Andy,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Great. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. 267 Old Oaken Bucket Road. On May 2nd, 2022, during the 6 p.m. meeting at Town Hall, the Scituate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Joseph Paul for determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands bylaws for activity related to building a detached garage at a single-family dwelling at location 267 Old Oaken Bucket Road, Scituate. The butters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meeting is available, posted on the agenda town website. We have,
I have John Zimmer on the call for this.
good evening, John.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. John Zimmer with South River Environmental on behalf of Mr. Paul. What we have is hopefully a pretty straightforward project. Mr. Paul is looking to put a 16 by 24 detached garage due east of the existing residence. The limit of work is approximately 75 feet away from a BBW, which I flagged a couple months ago. And, while I was out there, I measured, the distance from the BBW to the proposed corner of the garage. There's basically lawn that extends behind the existing house down to approximately 5 or 10 feet away from the BBW boundary. The garage will be a slab on grade, so there'll be very limited earthwork associated with the project. Show a limit of erosion controls basically behind where the proposed garage is going. I don't anticipate that any material would migrate back towards the wetland, but we'll certainly put down a compost filter sock at the limit of work just to, belt and suspenders. So make sure that if any work is occurring behind the proposed garage location, that, even, that the contractor knows where the limit is and doesn't go past there. So that's about it in a nutshell. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Okay. Amy?
Sure. All right. So this is a request for determination of applicability. This plan is, well, not this plan showing the framing, but the site plan is from 1985, which guessing that this is the plan for the Title V and for when this duplex went up, because it was like, I think it was one unit was built and then they added another one. So it's a pretty old plan, but for purposes of, we did have John go out there. It's a pretty clear break of, where it goes from filled area, which is flat out lawn, and then it drops right down to the resource area. So that part I think is pretty easy to observe. I don't know. I mean, it's closest work is 75 feet away with the limit of work. I think you could probably give this a negative finding. Although there's not a lot of detail here. So I did pull the house plans, which Jen, if you forward to the next slide, that's what he's building, was not in your set originally, but it gives you a little bit better idea on what's going to be constructed there. Pulled that off the building permit site. And I was appreciative that Mr. Paul did get John to prepare this. And yeah, that's about it.
Yep, and I did discuss this with Mr. Paul, and he's amenable if the commission wants to put an as-built condition on the determination. He's amenable to that as well if you want to get a better site plan for record, so he has that moving forward.
Okay. So, Doug?
Yeah, I don't think I have any questions. It's I was pulling it up on an aerial view. I really can't quite tell where that BVW is. This site's kind of surrounded by houses. Is it not?
Oh,
Yeah,
it's clear when you're out there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's like, it's a common driveway going back, but it's definitely wet all in front. In fact, this site is immediately adjacent to the 40B that's being considered by the town.
Oh, okay.
It's just.
Oh, okay. So the PVW
west
goes
of
out
here.
to, I see, out to Old Oaken Bucket. Yeah, but there's a house
And
on,
there's an intermittent stream also that runs through that area on the west side of the property line.
Yep.
oh, well, okay. Yeah, no, if you are able to feel like you can accurately measure that 75 feet, I'm good, John.
Okay.
Penny?
No, I'm all set.
Jen?
Yep, I'm good.
Andy?
I'm okay on this one.
Brendan?
I'm good. Thank you.
Richard?
I'm good.
Do we have anybody in the audience? Okay, I'll take a motion.
Make a motion for a -3.
And a second.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor, Richard,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Thank you. Thanks, John. 98 Central Ave on May 2nd, 2022, during the 6 p.m. meeting at the Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Kenneth and Lisa Williams for determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands Bylaw for activity related to extending a deck, extending HVAC platform, installing a fence around storage area at a dwelling at 98 Central Ave, Scituate. Of others and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information access to the meetings available on the agenda. It's on the website.
Frank, I have Ken Williams, who's the property owner, on the call.
Okay.
Hello,
Good
Ken
evening.
Williams. Good evening. 98 Ken Williams, 98 Central Ave, representing myself and my wife, Lisa. What we're proposing to do is simply expanding our existing open air decks. You can see the two existing, there's 3 existing decks, but we're extending on the north and the western side of our home to connect the deck as the front entry door and then the side deck. Again, this is an open air deck. It is approximately 36 to 40 inches above grade. And the amount of sonotube foundations to be put in, there's a total of 10 sonotubes for the deck and a total of 6 sonotubes for the fence enclosure and the HVAC platform. The total area of disturbed surface area for those 16 sonotubes is approximately 6.5 square feet of disturbed surface area. As part of this project, you can see in the photograph to the left here where the front stairs come down, there is an existing masonry brick patio at the base of those stairs. That is approximately 10 feet by 4.5 feet wide. That will be removed and will improve the porosity and of that area. And that area is approximately 45 square feet. That would be improved as part of this project. The existing deck that I am replacing, the existing is a closed deck, i.e. there's no joints between the decking. And again, I'm going a little bit beyond my expertise of porosity, but the new deck that we are installing, it will have the 1/4-inch gap between the planks, and in my humble opinion, will improve the drainage and the porosity in and around that.
Okay, thank you. Amy?
Sure. Okay, so it looks like this site went up on some sort of piles in 2006. And there is actually, Mr. Williams, just so you're aware, that there is an open order still on your property. There was a partial that was issued in 2007. But administratively, I highly recommend that you request the full CFC so that you have a clear title there. And as far as a request for determination of applicability, I mean, this is it's a barrier beach, coastal dune. You're in land subject to coastal storm flowage for AE 14. It's not a LIMWA. It's not mapped in the LIMWA area, but the Massachusetts Building Code for coastal resource areas in this location would be open pilings without footings. It's a lateral expansion on a coastal dune and a barrier beach. Typically, we would see 16 footings come in as a notice of intent. Although I'm gonna leave it up to you. I think that this project as proposed, as long as it's meeting the Mass Building Code for coastal areas for coastal dune and a barrier beach, as long as those footings are designed in such a way which would be the building commissioner, I think probably a negative you could find.
Ken Williams, 98 Central. I would be happy to work with the building inspector and the building department to make sure that happens.
Great, thank you. All right, so I'll go back to Richard. It's your neck of the woods.
Yeah. Well, of course, I'm on Central Ave, but I'm 6 or 7 houses away. I don't know Mr. Williams. I do know the house very well. And my only real question was the I call it lattice work that goes down to the ground. I'm just not sure that that's going to be permitted. And the problem with it, water does come down Newport Street. Water does come into Central Avenue, and I would be concerned that it would end up being in the river if you have it. So my only question would be perhaps a preference for just leaving it open under the deck rather than having the lattice. I realize the lattice looks a lot nicer, but otherwise I don't have any issues at all.
Okay. Doug? Did we lose Doug for a minute? Penny?
Okay, thank you.
Jen?
I'm good.
Andy?
My questions are answered.
Brendan?
I have no additional questions. Thank you.
Doug? You either fell asleep or got bored.
I tried I muted myself. No, I'm good. So that's why I was still talking and you just went on to somebody else. You weren't really being rude.
I try not to.
No, all I said
Um,
was I might be missing something, but I'm only counting 10 sonotubes. But no, I'm good.
It's the engineers. Do we have anybody in the audience? I'll take a motion.
Motion for -3.
Second,
I'll second that.
No,
I missed that. Who was
Doug got
that?
it.
Doug? All right, all in
Snuck.
favor? Richard?
Yep.
Jen?
Yep.
Andy?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
Frank, yes, great, thank you. Good luck with your project. 47 Rebecca Road. So on May 2nd, 2022, during the 6 PM meeting at Town Hall, Situate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Mark and Kendra Hornbrook for determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Situate bylaws for activities related to building a concrete patio at a single-family dwelling on location 47 Rebecca Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the website. And we
Frank, I
have-
unmuted Jed Hannon on this. He's
Okay.
Atlantic Coast Engineering.
Good evening, Jed.
Good evening, Frank. Good evening, commission members. For the record, Jed Hannon with Atlantic Coast Engineering. This is a rather simple project. You guys are probably very familiar with the area. This is 47 Rebecca Road, not too far from the lighthouse. The property abuts the concrete seawall, which is approximately elevation 16. This is in the VE 16 and AE 15 zone, as you can probably see on the plans. Do you guys have the plans in front of you?
Yep.
Okay, great. The proposed project, again, it's rather simple. The backyard that abuts the seawall is kind of in disarray. It's really kind of soils and some little bit of rock and just kind of loose vegetation. So the new owner would like to put in a concrete patio, approximately 4 inches thick with welded wire fabric for reinforcement. Again, it's almost like a landscaping project, just to cosmetically address the backyard. We have the setbacks shown relative to the wetlands. The saw cut and expansion joints will be done in accordance with Mass Building Code. And obviously a mulch sock will be installed prior to the start of any work. So it's a little bit of excavation and prep for the sub base, and then largely it's just a monolithic concrete pour to address the aesthetics for the backyard so they can enjoy it during the warm weather seasons. So that's really it. I'll take any questions you may have at this point. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Amy?
Okay, so let's see what I wrote down for this one. So this one, the site itself is in land subject to coastal storm flowage for VE 16 and AE 15, and it is in the Limois, so that's saying that there's going to be 1 to 3 foot waves in this area. We would, I mean, this one reminds me a little bit like Turner Road.
Yeah.
Where we wouldn't want, a solid surface or any walls. So pervious pavers or gravel would be what would be, what we would want to see. Unless it's replacing existing or something like that. But if it's new, I don't think you're going to want to put new solid surface, just increases the velocity of the water coming over, and impacts for storm damage and flood control would be what I'd be concerned about.
Okay. Jen?
Yeah, same concern as Amy around the solid surface there.
Andy,
Ditto that.
Brendan,
Same as Andy and Jen, yeah.
Penny?
No concrete pavers.
Doug?
Well, I guess I mean, do they make pavers that I know they make pervious pavers, and you're suggesting that they could do this with those in a storm? What happens to those? Aren't they liable to just break up and go
No.
all over the place?
No.
No? I'm not familiar with building pavers in a,
Well, they're kind of buried in the ground,
yeah.
you know? And it does allow for some water to seep into the ground.
So this is in front of us is an RDA.
Yes.
So it sounds like what do we do with something like this? Issue a -3 with the, because can we condition an RDA or what do we?
Yeah.
So then we would have to move this into an NOI then.
You could get a positive determination.
Yeah, I mean, is that, I guess I'm just trying to understand where we're going with that, because you're talking about pavers and no concrete, but I don't know that we can't condition an RDA, right? So are we maybe suggesting that the applicant come back with a different design, or?
Could I just ask a couple of questions as we kind of advance the discussion?
Sure.
Again, Jed Hannon, Atlantic Coast Engineering. Again, thank you for all the comments and input. Would you folks be amenable if we were to propose putting in a couple dry wells in order to recharge the runoff? You know, so that there isn't a net increase in impervious for this area. We could certainly consider doing pervious pavers. We've done that on several other projects, and it's an option. I just know that this particular area has some pretty robust storms, as you folks know, and I'd be concerned with the long-term life of pervious pavers versus concrete. There's also several other abutters. In fact, if you look on the drawing to the right, the abutter directly next door has a concrete patio. I don't frankly know how old it is, but there's quite a few backyards that are concrete and impervious. But I do respect the opinions and the concerns. So if you'd be open to if we added 2 dry wells, I think that would be a good solution. I guess I would have to go back to the owners and ask them about the pervious pavers if they'd be open to that. I guess I'll take any questions or comments you might have on that. Thank you.
Richard, I don't think I got to you.
No, you didn't. I didn't feel terribly left out, though. I feel very strongly both ways on this. I have seen cases in Hammerock and I think a couple of others where people had pavers and were in a very active flood zone where every year they get water, and the pavers have been damaged severely by it. So when I say I feel very strongly both ways, I know the rule. I understand why we don't want concrete in these places, but I'm not always sure that the pavers make a better alternative. And it's one of those cases where one rule just, I don't know that it always fits everything. I don't know if dry wells would help, but I appreciate the suggestion, and somebody with a better engineering background than I might be able to speak to that.
Okay.
Hey, stop it.
Is there anybody in the audience that want to speak to this? So my my understanding from talking to other engineers, different agents over the years, Jim O'Connell was a real asset to some of these projects, was that if you have a hard surface on the other side like that, you're just going to accelerate that water moving further into the house or into the yard, and trying to put in something that would dissipate some of that energy and then take up some of the water. To Richard's point, if it's too loose and the water gets underneath it, now you've created a whole bunch of projectiles, which don't help in a situation unless you have a really good interlocking patio. I'm sure there's concrete on either side. People have been pouring concrete around their houses out there to try to keep everything intact for years. But we have discouraged full areas covered with this. I think there's a little planting on maybe the south side a little bit.
Yes.
So but we've been turning back full concrete areas or whatever. What is the surface that's there now, Jet?
It's really just loose soils and at certain times of the year, vegetation, grass, and it's kind of patchy. It's obviously a very much an area prone to wave action and wave spray, if you will, from the ocean. So yeah, it's soils. I'm sure it would, if there were dry wells installed, it would percolate okay. We can obviously verify that with test pits prior to construction. But yeah, for the most part, it's existing soil in the backyard. That's really it.
The recent real estate pictures look like a nice lawn. Is that not reflective of what's there currently?
That may have been, at the end of last year's growing season. This survey was done right at the end of the winter. What was the date that we did this? The stamp date was early April. So the survey was actually done in March. So really at the tail end of the winter. So there's really nothing green out there right now. There may be, come June or, later in the growing season. But right now it's just, and there's probably been several storms over the winter as well. So it's really just kind of brown and, maybe there's some vegetation there, but yeah, it's mainly soil there.
Yeah, it looks pretty nice.
Okay, does anybody else want to comment or give some direction here?
Just to go full circle back around to me, I was like, the idea of pavers, I don't know how that, the concerns I've been hearing are velocity related. I don't know that unless there's something that exists that I'm not aware of, like would have to be, I'm just trying to think of like how much you'd slow the water down with those pavers.
You probably won't do a lot, Doug. I mean,
yeah, I just don't, it doesn't seem like that's really going to address in it. Yeah. So that likewise with dry wells, that'll help with water absorption coming off the I don't know, how are you going to collect that and run it into a dry well anyways, but even if you did, I still don't know what that does for velocity. Not much.
I think if we look at the coastal manual, it would say that you should keep compatible sediments there.
I suppose grass was not going to grow that well on that side, the north side of the house.
It really looks quite lovely. I've seen it.
On the back side,
Yeah.
Jen? Oh, really?
Yeah, it is a little confusing because like the three houses to the right, 3 or 4 houses to the right of it are concrete up until the wall, but this house and the one to the left of it have lawn.
Yeah.
I do understand what you're saying, what your initial assumption was though, Doug. Like I would have thought that as well, but it looks great.
Yeah, like I said, there's lawn in the front. We never saw any grass in the back. Yeah, I was trying to look online to see if there's any photos.
Yeah, the photos are in the real estate listing when it was
Yeah,
sold.
that's what I'm looking at. I don't see any, but what site are you looking at? I'm sorry.
I think it was on Zillow. I think it was like the 3rd picture.
So sometimes what people have done with these is tried to plant like a really hardy seagrass or something that's deep rooted for part of this area, just to
Jen's right, looks nice.
Should we just make a motion for a positive? Or
I'd take a motion.
I would make Penny normally does these. Is this
That's all right. Make a motion.
Can I ask one question before you make the motion?
Sure.
Would you guys be amenable? I mean, it sounds like if what I'm hearing is, the commission's largely opposed to an impervious concrete surface, even with the dry wells. I mean, I can't really think of a better option other than dry wells, but if the commission in fact is going to vote to not allow it, could we amend the plan to, or at least condition the RDA such that impervious material such as pervious pavers or other material be required?
Well, it looks like right now, Jed, the issue I'm seeing, I think some of the commission members have, is that you have a fairly decent grass surface there, and you're looking to remove that and replace it all with a hardened surface. And it's something that we really don't encourage. There's already a concrete deck, it looks like, in front of the house, and so now we're trying to really solidify the whole front yard between that and the seawall. So, I mean, to me, it looks like you have a couple of options right now. You could either take the positive determination, and then you're going to have to file a notice of intent, and would be relooking at that, or maybe you want to request a continuance and try to come up with a plan that you think your client and the commission could work with.
Okay, yeah, can we request a continuance then, and I'll talk to the owner and see what they'd be amenable to for more, perhaps, reduce the proposed footprint of what they desire in the back, and then also try to come up with a more, pervious solution, such as, I'll look at some options. I mean, I know we did further down the road at 97 Rebecca, we did like these white seashell type setup with a curb, with a concrete curb, and that's actually worked out pretty well. So
yeah, I think talk to them about maintaining some of the vegetation and maybe a surface that's permeable would be something you could consider. All right.
Okay.
All right. So We got a motion to, how long do we want to continue that to, Jen? What are we out to the 6th or June? June 6th or June 22nd?
22nd.
That's Amy.
So we can't get on the agenda for the next meeting 2 weeks out?
No.
We have so much going on.
I know they were hoping to get this started by the end of the month. They had a contractor on board, and so I think hopefully it's just a quick kind of update to the plan, reduce the footprint, and come up with something pervious. Or they may want to just withdraw. So I guess I'd respectfully ask if we could just be on the agenda for the second meeting in May, please.
Amy, Jen's telling me it's full. I don't know what our agenda.
It's full, yeah. Jed, the 16th, and it doesn't, I mean, I think there's, maybe, you know, maybe we should take a look at the comments that were made here, but I don't see this being like a minor modification particularly. Like, I mean, are you thinking you're gonna come up with a smaller patio? I don't quite understand.
Yeah. I'll talk to the owner and see what they want to do. I should be able to get something back, within a couple days.
Sounds like the 16th. I mean, the 22nd of June.
Do we have an earlier one in June?
I think that's booked.
So do we need a motion to continue to the 22nd of June?
Somebody's got to say when it can go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I make a motion, we continue 47 Rebecca to the 22nd of June.
I'll take a second.
That's a Wednesday, right?
Yes. Because Monday's a holiday.
Oh, okay.
What holiday?
Juneteenth.
Let's just believe it.
Okay.
So I have a motion to continue to the 22nd of June. Do I have a second?
Second.
Who's that?
Me.
Okay, all in favor, Richard?
Yes.
Who made the motion?
Jen did.
Jen. So Doug?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Penny,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Thanks, sorry.
Thank you.
Good night. Okay. Is Paul Marabito back on?
He's there. I can see him.
I believe he is. I'm gonna unmute him.
Paul, you on?
I think he's holding a phone and I see a 781-264 number. Is that maybe him?
He's talking.
Wait a minute. Jen's gonna get him in here.
Yeah, his microphone's unmuted on his computer, and also we're trying to unmute the phone number.
Oh, that's.
Any luck?
No.
I'm sorry, Mr. Snow, do you need some assistance with something?
Thanks, Seth. No, we're trying to connect with Paul Marabito from Grady Ross Engineering, and we're just not having any luck.
Yeah, I see. Okay. Paul does sometimes call in by phone. When he does, it looks like he's there. So I'm not sure if his number ends in 362, but that could be him on the phone as well.
Jen's not having any luck opening.
is there something that we need to do to unmute the phone? Because I'm asking it to be unmuted, but it's not unmuting.
Well, if that is Mr. Maravito, he would need to push *6, maybe. Paul, if you are on there, push *6.
Good, that sounds like it.
Here we go. Looks like there's a
*6.
Paul, are you there now?
Oh, boy.
Paul, I do see you. Paul, on your phone, I want you to push. All I want you to do is nod if your number ends in 362. Yes? Okay, good. So you should get a little notice. Listen to your phone. I'm asking you to unmute. If you want to unmute, you're going to push *6. Try that on your phone keypad, Paul. Nope, don't hear you yet. No, Paul, I want you to listen to your phone. We'll put your phone up to your ear because I'm going to give you this. See that? The host is asking you to unmute. But Paul, you're still going to, on your keypad, you're going to have to push that *6 on, yep, on your phone. Wonderful.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We got you. Happy days.
All right, thank you.
And Paul, you're going to
All
want to
right.
keep that phone right up to your mouth so we can hear you, okay?
All right, I will.
All right, good evening, Mr. Maravito.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
We've been waiting with bated breath to hear your. So this is Rebecca Road. Can you give us a little bit of update on that?
Sure. After the last meeting, I had Brad Holmes, I spoke to Brad about the site in general. The line we flagged is based upon the wetland soil, not the vegetation, because the only vegetation there was the lawn. So having said that,
Hey, Paul,
yes,
we're getting like this really bad feedback. Maybe you can press mute on your computer.
We already muted him without him.
He needs to mute his volume, not his microphone.
That is
Maybe his
correct.
volume.
Paul, on your computer, you're gonna have to use your phone the entire time. So you can look at the screen, but just talk through your phone. So turn the volume off on your computer and listen through your phone. Yes?
all right.
Yep. But again, you're gonna have to use that.
Can you hear me now?
You got to pick up that phone. If you can hear him, that's great.
Yeah,
How's that?
okay.
All right. After the last meeting, I spoke to Brad Holmes, and we came up with a proposed planting plan that's on the screen. The purpose of a vegetation is to provide some vegetation in the 50-foot buffer. Under your local bylaw, the presumption is that the 50-foot buffer, as it's described in your bylaw, is fully vegetated in the existing condition. And that's the primary reason not allowing work within 50 feet of the wetland. What's unique about this site is the 50-foot buffer has no vegetation, it is completely altered, and we have a plan from 1913 that was prepared for the selectmen and the town of Scituate by the Plymouth County Commissioners for the acceptance of Rebecca Road as a public way. That plan clearly shows a sizable structure on this plan, on this lot. The reason I mention that is because in the discussion of the buffer strip in your local bylaw, says that the commission
can look at pre-existing conditions where in this case, similar activity existed prior to the date of the amendment of the Scituate wetland protection regulations. In 1913 was clearly well before that. The other thing I point out is when your bylaw talks about the buffer strip, the primary reason for that 50-foot existing vegetated strip is for the protection of the resource area. Resource area here is both the wetland line, Brad flag, but the primary area of vegetation is the Phragmites, which is approximately 35 to 40 feet to the rear of the proposed structure. So again, where there's no vegetation in the buffer zone, your regulation does have an exception for doing this type of activity. And what it talks about is a buffer strip in undisturbed area 50 feet in width from the edge of the area subject to protection. And there's an exception, it says focus with the exception of land subject to coastal storm flowage. And that's the resource area that we're in. So having said that, providing the vegetation around the proposed structure, those two things, it will enhance the protection of the resource area.
Hey, Paul. So you're coming and going and we're getting like almost like a sonar sound. It's really hard to hear. But I think we got the gist of what you're saying. Amy, can you do you want to comment on this?
I think I've covered everything pretty well in the last 3 hearings or so on this, but so we've got the entire project in the 50. It would, if there was any building here, it would have to meet, Mass Building Code for the land subject to coastal storm flowage. But I think that it's pretty specifically not allowed under your bylaw. But anyways, I refer back to all the other meetings that we've had on this.
Just where in the bylaw would it say that there can't be a garage there? That's I mean, I get where it is in the area, but I've also seen an altered area and a grass area and garages on either side, or maybe on up and down the street. So
I'm sorry, Mr. Snow, can I just jump in here real quick?
Sure, yeah.
Vito, you must listen through your phone. Turn the volume off on your computer. Turn the volume off. You're going to have to hold that phone to your ear, okay? That's how you're going to listen. You're just going to look at the computer, but your audio and how you listen to this meeting is through your phone. Yes, you understand? Yes?
Yes, I do.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
How's
Yeah,
that?
that's better. That's way better.
Okay. Well, thank you, Doug. Again, your bylaw, when it talks about the 50-foot buffer strip, it talks about a buffer strip that in the existing condition is fully vegetated. You don't have that condition on this site because this site is completely altered. So it doesn't meet the requirements of a undisturbed and continuous buffer strip as is defined in your bylaw. The purpose of the bylaw in the 50-foot buffer strip is to leave the vegetation where it is, because the vegetation is the mechanism that will protect the resource area. Well, this site is altered. It has no vegetation in the 50-foot buffer. So there's no buffer strip existing that provides any protection to the resource area. By putting the plants around the building, that will provide some protection to the resource area, which is primarily the Phragmites, which you all know is a very invasive type plant. The building does have to be constructed to the FEMA construction standards. It'll be a slab on grade. The runoff from the roof is considered to be clean water. So having said all that, there would be no adverse impacts to the resource area from the proposed structure being placed in the location shown on the plan. And as I mentioned earlier, putting the vegetation there where there is none now is an added benefit from an environmental point of view to further protect the resource area to the extent that it needs to be protected against any adverse impacts, which we don't believe there would be any from this structure. The driveway is a proposed gravel driveway, which is pervious, which will come off of Rebecca Road. We show that on the plan as well. The buffer zone that would be provided from the back of the building to the Phragmites is approximately 35 to 36 feet. So, you know, there is a buffer zone to the Phragmites. It isn't 50 feet, but it's more than what is there now because, in effect, you don't have a buffer strip on this property as is defined in your local wetland regulations. And your regulations also do not have any performance standards for doing work in land subject to coastal storm flowage. But the bottom line is placing this structure here with the plantings around it and the fact that there's no grade changes, there would be no adverse impacts to the resource area. So having said that, I firmly believe this is a project that can be permitted and it protects the interests of the act, as I stated earlier. So with that, I'll answer any questions the members may have.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
You,
Doug?
Well, it looks like, or it sounds like, I've missed all the previous discussions on this plan. So I don't know where the commission stands on this. Have any of you gone out and seen the site?
Yes.
Because the aerial
Yeah.
image shows that it is vegetated. So is that not the case? Because sometimes those are outdated.
I think it's lawn.
it's all lawn. We show that. It's lawn from the street back to the edge of the Phragmites, which you show on the plan.
But a building is better than lawn than at protecting the wetlands.
Huh?
Well, that's a
No,
question.
what I'm saying is that
I'm sorry, I was being
Oh.
facetious and rhetorical and unnecessarily giving
You're
Paul a hard
wise
time.
guy.
So yeah, I was. I
Alright.
apologize openly. I don't need to
Okay.
do that. Okay.
so the opposite of what you said is your view.
All right. Well, listen, I'd like everyone else to. I
right.
missed all the previous conversations. I don't want to start all over from scratch
Penny?
on this.
Thanks,
So,
Doug. Penny?
Well, personally, the only way I feel I could allow and feel comfortable the garage there, it would have to be up on pilings. It would not have a concrete floor. It would have to be up. It would have to be raised. So when the ocean comes over, it can flow and go into the Phragmites. I just, I know there's other ones there, but they've been there forever. And this is a new build on this piece of land that's been vacant since time began. Anyways, I'm very uncomfortable with it on a slab. And we
Okay.
have done garages down in Hummerock that had to go up on pilings. We did one down in Minot that we did two down there. They had to go on pilings.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Let me quickly say that if you're in Hummerock or up in Minot, if you're on a barrier beach, the DEP requires you to be on piles. But if you're in land subject to coastal storm flowage, there is no requirement for that. That's why most structures all the structures we've been involved with in land subject to coastal storm flowage are on a concrete slab because they do meet the state building code, which also includes the FEMA construction standards. there's no requirement that I'm aware of that requires a structure and land subject to coastal storm flows to be on piles, Penny. That's why the applicant's proposing the slab on grade.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. Jen?
Yeah, I don't have anything new to say.
Okay. Andy?
Yeah, I don't think my outlook on this has changed much. I don't think, I don't like the project really, or don't. And I guess if I were outnumbered and we were to let it go with mitigation, I think I agree with Paul that the idea is to have a robust, significant buffer between the work and the resource area. So if we did go forward with something, I think we should have much more robust mitigation in a strip across the property, not just around the building.
Okay, thank you. Brendan?
I don't have anything new right now.
Okay. Richard?
Richard is queued.
I'm sorry. What I said, and of course you didn't hear me, was that I also do not have anything new to add.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anybody in the audience?
Seeing none, Frank.
Okay. I guess I'm a little bit different than some of this. I'm not gonna totally disagree with Paul that this couldn't be allowed in this area. I think that there ought to be more vegetation, maybe from the back of the garage all the way to the Phragmites line to see a real significant planting in there, but I'm not sure that this should be denied, but I also understand people's concerns. There's nothing there now. There's just a lawn and certainly an area that's prone to water. So I guess that's what I
Frank,
have.
we can add more plantings to the rear of that building, but we could only go to the property line because that lawn area is, or the wetland line that we show there, that Brad flag is on the abutters property. And
Yeah,
the
but this,
Phragmites are,
there's 20 feet of land between the back of the garage and the property line. So
right, no, I'm saying we could vegetate that, but we don't have the right to go over the property line.
I understand.
Yeah, I mean, if the board wants to condition the additional plantings, we don't have a problem with that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's my personal feeling on it, but
Frank,
All right.
go ahead.
can I
Amy.
just, since
Sure.
I didn't really want to repeat everything I've already said, and I'm
Oh.
not going to do that now.
Yep.
But I do want to just have you refer to Scituate, to your Scituate rules and regulations, SWR 10.38 for land subject to coastal storm flowage performance standards. So these areas are presumed to be significant for storm damage prevention and flood control. I mean, I agree that if you were going to condition, it's got to go up. But also something that we do consider when evaluating these properties is sea level rise, and keeping in mind that Cedar Point in this location will be under 3 feet of water under a regular high tide cycle in the not too distant future. But anyways, so I'm not sure it's a denial or it's closing with conditions, but I can tell you that your Town of Scituate Conservation Commission Wetland Rules and Regs page, starting on pages 41 for a few pages, it walks you through the interests of the act and what your protection for land subject to storm flowage and presuming to be significant, also for the interest of pollution too. So that's what I have to say.
Okay. Well, I think we've discussed it. Well, more than we've- as much as we need to. So I'd take a motion.
Make a
Either-
motion to close.
Okay, a motion to close. Do I have a second?
Second from Jen.
All in favor, Richard,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Okay. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
So, we're on to enforcements.
Can we do the other stuff that's quick first, Frank?
Sure.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion that we, the extension for 27 Town Way for 2 years. Amy,
So, sorry, you had me in mid cookie eating.
So we're gonna, you want an extension for 27 Town Way for
2 years?
DEP order numbers
Yeah,
068.
these have been going on for a while. They're related to cleanup of the roadway and the sand and gravel around their homes.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if you want to extend them forever, but at this point, I think that this
Well,
has
they have to
got to
clean
be
up
like
every year almost.
their second or third extension. I would probably vote it now, but reconsider for the next time. I don't know if you want to do a 1 year or a 2 year.
Do 2.
Okay, there's a motion to extend those for 2. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll
Richard.
second that.
Okay, I think there was some before Brendan, but he was loud and clear, so I get it. All in favor, Richard,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Jen,
Yep.
Andy,
Yes.
Frank, yes, thank you.
Okay, I make a motion that we accept the minutes from April 21st as written.
Second.
It's Richard, all in favor, Doug,
Yes.
Jen,
Yep.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. What about the minor modification?
Well, wait a
request?
second. I'm gonna go back to that. I make a motion that we accept the orders of condition for 7173 Glades Road as written.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second, Andy.
All in favor, Richard,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Jen,
Yep.
Brendan,
Yes.
and Frank, yes.
I make a motion for the minor modification for 155 Bulrush Farm Road. It's gone to a smaller septic system. It was for 7 bedrooms. It's gone down to 5.
So can I
It's
get a
smaller
second?
Septic system they're gonna put in, yeah.
Can I get a second on that?
I'll second that.
Brendan, thank you. All in favor, Richard,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Jen,
Yep.
Andy?
Yes.
So there was a reason to have to vote E before B? Or is it
Not
just-
really. Not really. I just.
All
thought
right,
those were-
let's go to the
In case there was
enforcement.
a discussion,
All right.
that's
I
all.
didn't-
All
I don't
right.
know, I don't know if Jake wanted to
Ow,
send that.
oh, Jake's biting my foot right now.
There you go. All
Come
right.
on, Jake.
All right, how about enforcements and then we can call it a
Okay, so
night.
this has been a pretty long meeting, so we'll keep this pretty brief. I mean, we've got our list. And I think the only, well, actually, there's a couple of things maybe that we could talk about. One is for 208 CJC. We did receive the restoration plan, but it has not been reviewed yet. We've distributed it out to you, and we also have that account funded for a peer review. So that'll happen. Bob Gray, get to it hopefully this week or next week. But I did want to see if you would entertain letting that owner get their C of O for the main house at this point, showing good faith since it's tied to contractor payment. And that was a request from, that I said I'd ask for.
Okay, anybody want to comment on that?
I don't have a problem with that.
Well, maybe I should first, then, Amy, I'd like to see, before we lift that we get some sort of monetary guarantee that gets done.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
I looked at that proposal. I'd certainly like to hear from Bob Gray, but in my mind, there were really significant trees there, and that clearing and those low trees afforded that new house a great view of the marsh, and those trees were supposed to be pruned, not cut down. And I'm glad that we got to the next step, but I think we want to hear from Bob on that, and then we're going to want some sort of monetary guarantee that work gets done. That's my
I
first.
agree with Frank. After going out there.
I mean, I want to hear from other folks, but
Yeah.
just go ahead. I heard from Penny. I don't know if Doug, you want to comment?
Yeah, I just took a quick look at the restoration plan. It looks like what they did was pretty significant.
What they did was flatten the whole property. So, I mean, the plan is a start, but I'd like to hear from Bob Gray and see if he's in agreement with that. And then, maybe in the meantime, we can get some estimates. Maybe the owner can supply us with a couple of estimates if if Bob says that that's the plan, and we know how much it's going to cost to install that, and then we can get some sort of monetary guarantee that it's going to get done.
Yeah, that seems appropriate. It's just such a surprise that something like that would go down. But so, yeah.
Okay. Andy?
No, your assessment sounds good to me.
Brendan?
Yeah, I agree. That too.
All right. And we have a hand up.
Yeah, I think the applicant has his hand up.
Sure.
How you
Okay,
doing?
Sean,
Hi.
you're on. If you can keep it brief, please.
Okay, so as we discussed at the last meeting, we did mention, I've obviously in good faith, I came in, I paid my fee that was requested. Obviously, we submitted the restoration plan. I know it hasn't had time to be reviewed yet. But again, as far as the main house, I discussed this before. There is some issues with paying contractors, and I know, I'm just a little frustrated in the sense that, these are two separate permits, two separate applications. I understand, there's a want for some monetary guarantee, and I have no issue with that. But like I said before, this is keeping me from occupancy from my main house, which is outside of conservation's jurisdiction, and it's becoming a real issue with paying contractors that, I need occupancy to get my final draw, and I can't do that, and it's become an issue. And like I said, I understand where the frustration is coming from, but it almost feels like a little retaliation. I'm just a little, I'm trying to work with you guys and do this the proper way, but again, there are two separate applications. It is outside of the jurisdiction, and I'm just trying to work with you guys, and I'd like to, have some leniency. I know 5 Cushing Landing was allowed to hold their cease and desist and continue building. And, I was asking for the same accommodations, that have been allowed to 5 Cushing.
So 5 Cushing is under construction, and we could give them another cease and desist if they don't move forward. And right now, they came to the table right away with a mitigation plan. And we want to see what Bob's assessment of that. We're going to look for a monetary value on that one, and we're going to ask that owner to do the same thing. And then with regards to yours, is that clearing not only afforded you the opportunity to build that building, but it's given an incredible view from the house. And there were full mature trees there, Sean. And if you want to move this thing forward, in my opinion, you want to get some estimates on what it's going to take to do that plan. And if Bob agrees that the plan's there and we have a number, then you need to be prepared to either post a bond or put up money to do that.
Okay.
All right.
It doesn't seem like I have an option.
Not in my mind.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just expediting it as much as we can.
All right. Well, okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anything from 5 Cushing Landing, Amy?
No, nothing new. As I said, it's over at the wetland scientist. Both of those accounts are funded for that one, 208 and 5 Cushing. So it's in the court of the peer reviewer just to review for accuracy, and we'll have comments back, I'm sure, hopefully by the next meeting.
So I think maybe to make sure that they're clear on this, just what we spoke to Mr. 208 tonight, that not only we're gonna want that approved, but as soon as we know what that is, we're gonna want to know what the value of that is, and for that owner to also post some surety that gets done. I don't see that. I'm not going to hold anyone any different. The only issue with letting this one move forward is that they're far from being done, and we could get cease and desist at any time on that one if they don't do that. So as soon as we get that, we need to know what that is so they can post something.
Got it.
All right. And we beat 7 Dunbar to death tonight.
Yeah.
Yep, 7 Dunbar. We don't need to talk about. 126 Turner, the update on that is that the owner has hired an engineer to come on board. And then there was a question about whether or not there could be a minor activity permit to add material on the left side, which is the primary driveway. And my thought is that it's all one site, so it should be just part of the notice of intent. If you have any thoughts on that, I would like to hear them. Otherwise, we're waiting for the notice of intent for that one to come through, which it's being worked on.
I have a thought.
Okay.
I was just, on the other side, that definitely is storm damage. I was just down there. And to my knowledge, we've been giving minor activity permit for people to restore after the winters. Someplace they have an ongoing one that every year they can, bring in material.
Well, yeah, so the minor activity permits is to return sand to the beach. So material that comes over, we let them put it back. So yeah, storm damage cleanup. But in this case, the request was to add material. So apparently it's been
Because
scoured.
it was ripped away from that side of the site.
Yeah.
I've been there as well.
All right, but it is, okay. But would that be under the notice? something
I
like
think so.
that.
It's the same property. It's just
I mean, because he'd
either
have to
side of the
bring
house.
material in. He can't go taking it off the beach or something. All right, whatever. I just,
Well, given the fact that it's an enforcement, I feel like everything
Yeah,
that you
that's
do out
fine,
there
Amy.
should be related to an order so that
right.
there's clear direction.
all right.
There's also, all right, 62 Glades. Have you been following along with that one?
Yeah.
So there was something that came through just today, actually, on 62 Glades about beefing up the plantings there. And I didn't know if you had time to take a look at that or not. Jen, I know you're familiar with that one particularly.
Is that the plan with all the circles?
Yeah.
And so there was an accepted restoration plan on that one, which was the dune. And then out front, there was grasses. And so anyways, a few weeks ago, the new owner was trying to make some improvements, largely because he's got people pulling off the side of the road and I don't know, parking on his, temporarily unloading on the side of the glades there to get to the beach. And so he's trying to figure out a strategy to take care of that.
What happens when you buy a house next to the beach entrance? But I read through all of his notes and his emails, and I mean, I would love to find a way to make it work because he clearly understands what we're looking for and wants to make something happen. I don't have a problem with like a cobblestone pervious paver, walkway in that black area. Love all the roses. I don't want a wall, but I guess I wouldn't be, I understand what he's trying to get at, and I would be okay with the red line around the lawn being cobblestone set into the ground, just to be a little bit of a purposeful property line there, but not the red line on the other side of the driveway because that's town property. So, and then he'd have to repair the town property driveway that he has leased from the town for the next year. So I think I'm totally on board with everything that's on his property specifically.
So we're just waiting for him to go forward, right, Amy?
Well, no, we wanted to have a discussion about the restoration plan changes that he was proposing. And I mean, either you need more time to take a better look at it, or I think it might be as simple as going with who's most familiar with it, which is Jen, and taking her comments that she just said and conveying them out. I mean, so it's no walls, but you could accept some changes to the modifications to the restoration, especially if he's going to be replanting and
the dune.
Yeah, respectful of the dune on the town side, and then also we understand that he's got issues with boundary on the street side.
Yeah, totally get it. I think the only thing I would say no to is the red line on the other side of the driveway. But everything else, as long as the cobblestone is at grade with the lawn.
I'm looking at it now. Yeah, I think your ideas are great.
He's put far more effort into this than many other people, so I would want him to be able to move forward when he can.
As possible, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that
Great.
sounds good. That's good feedback. I actually don't think we need a vote on it.
Okay.
And the other two are on the list. We're working with Inner Harbor Road properties with minor activity permits, and actually Corey Miles is helping put together a memorandum of understanding for those owners so that there's an understanding about what's going to happen with the dune that's created when they push the sand back onto Peggotty Beach, and also has some creative dune strategies that she and the Beach Commission are working on, as well as funding to get that dune planted out with more beach grass. The beach grass that was installed last year actually held up pretty well. So anyways, we're gonna just been working on that a little bit. And 147 Hollitt, clearly I need to reach out again to the owner and find out what's going on, and probably, I don't know, I think get a restoration plan, because the first conversation that I had was that the area that was disturbed behind the house, which is like to the right side of the pool, was just related to that October storm that came through, and he had some trees that were down, but it appears that it could be a little bit more than that, and that good opportunity to put in some permanent markers, and so that, you know, it's clear what the do not disturb zone is, because it appears to be a little bit unclear for the owner.
Okay, can I
Right.
ask a question per usual?
So you
What's-
want
Yeah,
to make a motion to adjourn?
well, wait a minute, just one quick one. Amy, did you ever give an enforcement order to 151st Parish with her historic tree?
Not an enforcement order. We had a positive finding.
I know, but she's not doing, you know,
It's been cleared and grassed and just,
she's doing what she wants to do and she was told not to do. So I think an enforcement order needs to go out immediately.
Okay, I mean, is there some new work that's going on right now that's, or just this has just been something that's been on your list?
There was a tree work in the back last week.
Yeah,
There was, okay.
there's always something.
it's been moving forward and it's not stopping, and I
In
don't see
her
it.
way,
And
not
there's,
our way.
and there's been no real effort to,
Stop her.
or for her to come in and mitigate what she's been
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah, no, you were very clear in the meeting what direction you were going in, and it's, I agree that it is disappointing we haven't received a formal filing, and I will definitely get an EO out to her. and
Thank
we'll
you.
Get a response that way.
Okay, I'll make a motion now to adjourn, Frank.
Unless anybody else wants to.
Yeah, would somebody else like to say something fun?
I miss Jake already.
You missed Jake, he's on the bed. See? He's looking at us.
I wished I had a kitty.
He's gonna chase me downstairs when I get up.
I have two. You want them?
Oh, yeah, Richard has two. You don't want to get rid of your cats, Richard.
No, I don't.
I'm
really,
waiting for,
except
I'm
they
waiting
take
for,
too
a
much room.
I'm
I
waiting for a
would like to-
second.
I would like to
Doug.
just say
All
thanks.
in favor?
Aye.
Doug, I'm fostering 4 kittens currently. They'll be ready in about a week or 2.
Really?
There you go, Doug.
Nice, Brendan.
Andy, yes. Brendan, yes. Penny, yes. Doug, yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, everybody's a yes.
You guys have a good night.
You too.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Seth.
Good night.
Right.
Bye.